You are here not to get a C pass, right? You are here to get that A pass for history. And more importantly, learn history as a proper subject. Okay, this is what we teach in this class, okay? Because many people have forgotten history. Many people are focusing only on technical subjects, that we don't have good people in the society today. So the main goal of this class is to produce good people who understand how the society works. This is the main goal, okay, of this class, right? History is a subject that teaches you how the society works, how to live in the society, how to understand the society. Other subjects will teach you how to solve your problems, how to apply your formulas, equations, and stuff to get stuff done, get things done. Okay, like maths and science, for example, the technical subjects, or commerce. Those are technical subjects. But history is a subject that helps you understand how the society works, how people think, how to respect their opinions, and how to become a good person in the society. Okay, this skill is taught in the history class. Okay, not in your textbook, but in the class. Yeah. We had 80 plus students who took their O levels last Wednesday, and the history paper was on Wednesday, and about 20 students for seminars who joined from outside for seminars. Altogether 100 plus students took the exam this year with us, and the feedback has been so amazing. You might have seen my status and everything. I'm expecting like 40 plus A passes this time from our class. Normally almost half of our class are getting A passes, so yeah, 40 A passes is our target this year. I mean, I don't want to be too positive, so like I'll keep it 40. Anything above 50, I'll take it as a bonus. But yeah, hopefully we should be getting 40 A passes minimum in our class out of 80, 90 students. And this is the fourth successful batch that we completed. Okay, fourth batch. You are the fifth batch in this online class. So already we completed 4 batches: 2021, 22, 23, and 24. Okay. And ironically, you remember we discussed a target question last week related to Renaissance. That target question we discussed last week came in the exam. Okay, this year, right? I'll show you that. Okay, so yeah, next time also, yeah, we're gonna give several target questions. So the most happiest thing about our class this time is that we worked so hard. Okay, I can say that, every year I'm also evolving as a teacher. I'm also improving myself as a teacher. I'm also going, one step ahead every year, right? I'm working hard on myself, my teaching skills, the support that I give to students. I'm also working very hard. You might not see this, but yeah, I'm also spending sleepless nights and helping students, and so many things are going on in the background that you don't see sometimes. You will notice that when your exam is coming close by, when you text me in the middle of the night, and when I help you with your doubts and everything, you will understand the hard work that I put in as well. Okay, so this time we had a big team working behind the scenes as well. The seniors, especially those seniors who took their O levels in 2023, some from 2021, and they volunteered this time to help our students. And there was a big team, like 7 8 volunteers working, you know uh, behind the scenes, checking the maps that you have marked, and checking the papers, checking the essay type questions that you have answered, and stuff like that. Okay, not you, of course, you are seniors, right? Okay, so we are hoping to bring them, and also bring new students who are getting A passes this year. Obviously there are going to be a lot of students getting A passes. That is how we have done this class all these years. We have had so many A passes. Okay, we are a club, yeah, we are the class of kings for a reason. So many students of our class are getting A passes if you worked according to my plan. Okay, you got to stick to the plan. You got to work a little hard according to the plan. If you need that A pass, okay, you definitely are going to get that A pass. And if you don't work, I cannot guarantee anything. Okay, if you don't work, if you work according to your plan, maybe, or maybe some other plan that is given by someone else, I can't speak for others. I can only speak for myself. So our past students have proven that my plan really works. Yeah, so you can also stick to that, because that is a solid plan. This plan that we give in this class is a solid plan. The set of tunes that we give, we're going to give you a set of short notes when the exam is getting close, and we're going to do these 2 seminars, very important seminars, 2-day seminars, one for map marking 2 days and one final seminar for 2 days. That's going to secure, that's going to guarantee you a pass, right? There's no doubt about that. This is time proven, right? We have proven this over and over again, and this time also it's going to be proven. Colbrook. Yeah, okay. So many students many students believe that the exam paper this time is tough. Okay, the O-level history paper is tougher than previous years, or generally history is one of the toughest subjects that came this year. This is the general opinion of many students outside of our class. Okay, not our students, right? Our students faced it really well, and some of the students scored 40 out of 40 marks for MCQ. Trust me, okay? 40 out of 40 for MCQ. Our target is 30. Okay, this time several students scored 38 40s. Okay, just imagine how much hard work they put and how much hard work I also put, right? I also put a lot of hard work to lift them up to that level. Some of the students, when they joined our class, they were at 40 marks, 50 marks level. So now they are scoring 40 marks from MCQ only, right? So that is because of our hard work. Okay, so those hard work will not go in vain, and you will also achieve better than this. I believe this class will grow into 100 students hopefully by the end of this year. So yeah, we right now we have about 60 students, so this is gonna hopefully, God willing, gonna grow maybe 100 plus, maybe when we start our revision and paper class. And we will have your, we will have your seniors coming and help you in marking your maps and stuff like that. We will do that. Okay, don't worry, I will invest on that, and I will get the stuff done. Okay, so your target should be to like, you know what I mean, every year we are going to improve ourselves, right? So your target should be, okay, let's say if we have 40 A passes this year, your target should be 50 A passes, right? So today is a day that we are going to start a new lesson. What is the lesson, Putha, we're going to start? Yes, we're going to start fourth lesson. Okay, political changes in Sri Lanka under the British. Now, in order to start this topic, I'm going to quickly go through a few things that we learned in the first few lessons. Okay, like a first couple of lessons, like not the first lesson itself. First lesson is Industrial Revolution. I'm not going to touch on that, but I'm going to touch on unit number 2 a little bit here to get a start to this lesson. Okay, yeah. So I'm going to ask you a few questions to check whether you remember stuff from unit number 2. Yeah, let's see who can remember. Those who remember, they will perform well in the exams. All right, okay, you know this. All right, so what happened in 1815? Now I'm not expecting you to remember the years. Okay, I'm just telling you, but if you remember. But the thing is, we are not in our syllabus, we are not expecting you to remember all these years. Okay, but a couple of years will be very important, like 1815, 1818, 1848. We learn about this, and in 1818 we targeted a question. This time it came. Okay, it came, like we had a target question about these battles for freedom. This time I told that it's going to come this year. It came this year. So next year I will tell you what's going to come. Okay, not now, later. Yeah, okay. What happened in 1815, Puthe?
Upcountry treaty.
Signing the Canadian Convention.
Yeah, signing the Canadian Convention. What is that exactly? Okay, Puthe.
Upcountry treaty.
Handing over the Canadian Kingdom to the whole country to the British.
The British capturing Canadian Kingdom. Yeah, that technically that is the event, right? The surrendering of Canadian Kingdom to the British. Oh, you have different names. You can call it in different ways. Okay, ceding the Canadian Kingdom to the British, or handing over the Canadian Kingdom to the British by the aristocrats of Kandy. Surrendering of Canadian Kingdom to the British capturing Canadian Kingdom. That is the event. Okay, that is the event. As part of that event, the Canadian Treaty or Upcountry Treaty or Udarata Givisuma in other words in Sinhala we call it Udarata Givisuma, the agreement upcountry treaty. Treaty means agreement that was signed in 1815. Okay, so you got to understand that. So what happened in 1796? You remember what happened in 1796 then?
First
Anybody?
time the British came to Sri Lanka.
The British captured. Tell me properly, Bhute, when
British
you're
captured the
studying for O
coastal
levels.
areas.
Yeah, exactly. When you're studying for O levels, you got to be very specific. Okay, you got to be very specific. You got to be very serious. Okay, you got to tell or you got to describe something using the exact words. Okay, so capturing of the coastal areas by the British. The Dutch were ruling the coastal areas before, and by 1796, the British captured the coastal areas of Sri Lanka from the Dutch. The coastal areas means the areas that are close to the beach or the coast. Okay, the maritime provinces, in other words, the provinces that are facing the sea. Okay, but in the middle of the country, we had this strong independent kingdom, Candian kingdom. But by 1815, many reasons contributed to this. The king's actions also contributed to this, and the British tactical policy contributed to this, and the aristocrats of Kandy taking the side of the British also contributed to this. The problems that the aristocrats had with the king contributed to this. The distancing relationship that the king had with the general public also contributed to this. So many reasons contributed to this, so that the British were able to capture Candian Kind. So when the British, who were only ruling the coastal areas, captured all of Kandy, the whole country became a British colony, right? Whole country, right? Okay, for the first time, right? Whole country. Now, okay, that is the start that we are going to get into this lesson. Okay, so everybody, I believe, remember what we learned from unit number 2. So unit number 3 doesn't directly apply here, but when we go along, you will also understand the connection between unit number 2, unit number 3 and this unit. Okay, so this is the 4th unit that we are starting today. So we will start from 1815 now. Okay, so after 1815, Budhe, the whole country went into the hands of the British. Now the British are controlling the full country. Okay, the every inch of our land, right? The full country was a British colony. Now, what happened to the country after a few years? The British realized the Sri Lanka or the British Ceylon, the British colony of Ceylon, they call it the British Ceylon. The British Ceylon is not making enough money, okay, not getting enough income. So it's very difficult to manage the country. Okay, there's no enough income to the country. The income was less than the expenses. This was the main problem. Okay, income was less than, okay, mathematical terms here, right? Expenses. Okay. So what will happen when the income of a country is less than the expenses? Let's take a good example here in your family. Okay. So let's say there's a small family. Let's say this is your family, the family of 4, right? 4 members, mom, dad, then 2 kids, let's say example. Okay. Yeah. Right. Now, let's say dad is only one working example. Okay. Yeah. Some families we have both working. Some families we have 3 people working, your maybe elder sister, elder brother also working. Yeah, like that. Okay. Typical example. Okay. So let's say dad is working, only dad is working. Mom is a homemaker. So she's taking care of you guys. And then dad is working very hard. So let's say example, dad is earning 80,000 rupees per month. Okay. Example. Okay. 80K. 80,000 rupees per month is the income. Okay, incoming cash, right? But the expenses, your expenses with your school fees, with your class fees, with your food, with your transport, with the electricity bills, maybe the house rent, if you are living in a rented house, so many expenses, right? Transport and so many other expenses, right? The school events and your uniforms, your pencils, pens, and you got to understand the economics here, right? So let's say that is 100,000. Okay, that means there's an imbalance between the income and expenses, right? Income is less than the expenses. So every month you need 100,000 to pay your bills or for the food and everything, but you are earning only 80,000. Now, what are the options your dad had? Now think like your dad, okay? Now let's say this is your dad earning 80K, but every month the expenses are more than 100K. What are your dad's options? Now you think and tell me. Yes.
Sending
Loaning.
mom to work.
Taking a loan. Okay. Taking a loan, right?
Sending
Okay.
mom to work.
Taking a loan.
Starting another job.
Okay. Doing another job or changing jobs. Okay. Okay. Taking a loan, temporary fix, right? Okay. Dad can say, dad can call his brother or his friend. There's a situation like this month I'm running short of money, so give me a 20,000 and I'm going to settle you next month. So what will happen next month? Again 100k is the expenses next month also. Then he will have to pay that 20k. Now he's got only 60k, right? So he's in deep trouble now. You understand what I'm saying, right? So taking loans doesn't help you on the long term. Okay, taking a loan can be a temporary fix. It's like patching a hole, right? Not repairing it. Okay, just putting a patch. Okay, it's a temporary fix. Okay, so that is one option. But yeah, because you have to run the show, you have to run the house for this month at least. You got to survive. You got to survive until the next month, right? So that you can think of something, right? So loans can be temporary. Okay, not long term. Long term, they are not helping. Oh, one Putao Dua said, what is it? Taking another job or changing jobs or taking an extra job, right? Extra income. Maybe can do a business. Maybe mom can go to work, something like that. Or maybe dad can get a part-time job. That is one option. Okay, what will happen to this then? Income can be increased. You can increase the income. Okay, so these are the options.
So
Okay,
what about
taking
what
loan.
about cutting expenditures?
Very good. I'll come to that. Yeah, taking a loan temporary or increasing the income. You can increase the income, or you can, like Vandu said, you can decrease the expenses, right? You can cut down on the expenses. Okay, cutting down, that is also possible, right? So you can bring that 100k to 80k, or you can earn more than 100k, so you can have that perfect balance, right? So these are the options. These are the main options that dad has. Starting a business, doing another job, changing a job, that will increase income. Okay, or he can cut down on expenses, right? He can say history class, no history class, thank you, but maths and science only. You can say history is not a very important subject, so you can stop it. Okay, he can tell that. Or he can say, okay, the electricity bill is 10,000, this is too much. Okay, make a hondaram vadi. So guys are, fan nokkoma dala තියෙන්නේ. Then now he's getting angry as well. Toilet එකේ light දාලා, then fan දාලා ඉස්සරහා nobody is in the front of the house. You understand, right? My dad also used to shout at us, right? When things like this, the fans and everything, he would sometimes, he would get very angry, my dad, and then sometimes he would remove the bulb or sometimes smash the bulb when he sees it happening for quite some time. He's gone to that age. Very tough. So he can ask you, right? Everybody, okay, you can study in the same place, right? So one light or one fan, right? You can cut down on expenses. Let's bring the electricity bill down to 5,000. Okay, we will try to manage it. Or you're going out every week or every 2 weeks or twice in a month. We can do it once a month now because I'm running tight, right? The situation is tight. So you can do something like that, right? You can cut down the expenses, okay? Or you can increase the income, right? Okay. So what you need to understand here is one more important thing for your life. If you want to develop, let's say now this is a country, okay, this is the country, the same thing. Country is like the family here, okay. So when your income of the country is less than the expenses of the country, you're gonna be in trouble, okay. So what you need to do here is, out of these options, this is the best option. Increasing the income should be the best option, because cutting down expenses is good. I'm not saying no, cutting down unnecessary expenses are good, but it won't bring development, right? Yeah, you can't get developed, right? Like by cutting down the expenses, you can't go to the next level, right? You can survive by cutting down expenses. But increasing the income means by maintaining the expenses in the same level, increasing the income is the best option, because then you can save, you can think of other investments, you can grow, you can develop. Okay, so this is how you should think when it comes to a country as well. So country cannot get developed just by cutting down expenses. Okay, just because of budget cuts, the country cannot go to the next level. It can survive, it can just live for the day, but on the long term it can't go to the next level. Okay, to go to the next level, the country has to find new ways to generate new incomes. It's the same thing with your family as well. Okay, so if your family needs to go to the next level, you got to find a way to increase the income. Okay, cutting down the expenses, good. On the short term survival thing is good. It should be, you should maintain, you should not spend unnecessarily, that is true. But if you want to go to the next level, income is the main goal. Okay, increase in the income is the main goal. Okay, so now let's say now this house is a country. Okay, so let's substitute this house thing to a country. Okay, now a country also has a lot of expenses, right? Country also has income and expenses. Now what are the expenses of a country? What are the expenses of a country? You can tell me a few expenses that a country has. As a country, what are the expenses we have there? Yes.
Constructions.
Construction activities, development activities, building roads, building canals, repairing these irrigation systems and infrastructure. Yes, correct. Any other
Payments
spending?
of
Security.
paying
Security, yeah,
government officers
maintaining
and
army,
stuff.
paying them, yeah, maintaining the army, paying for their uniforms, paying for their weapons, ammunition,
Paying
their
the government
salaries.
servants.
Paying the government servants for the administration, then other expenses like printing charges, that charges, this charges, transportation, everything, right? So many expenses, right, for a government. Yes. And what about the income? How the governments are getting income? What is the main source of income for a government? Taxes.
Export.
Taxes.
Export
Taxes. So
item.
governments can own business. Yes. So governments can charge taxes from people or businesses. Governments can also own businesses and they can generate profits. Okay, exporting, for example, exporting products, and they can earn the profits. So Sri Lanka also has some government operated businesses. For example, SPC, State Printing Corporation, a government owned business, right? So like that, Sipetco. There are many government owned businesses as well, right? Like which generates income. Yeah, like CGR, for example, like Sri Lanka Railway now today, those days CGR. So uh, let's say SLTB, yeah, the CTB as we call it. Yeah, okay. So those are government owned businesses that can generate income, right? So the governments can also own businesses, they can generate income, they can generate their income by exporting stuff as well. At the same time, the government can earn the tax income. Okay, so tax income is one of the main incomes the government has. So what happened here? Under the British, after some time, the British started realizing, okay, 1815, now 1820, 1825. By this time, the British started realizing, okay, this is not helping. What is not helping? The economic situation in Sri Lanka is not helping, because what Sri Lanka is making as an income is not enough to spend or pay our bills. This is what the British governor started realizing. So every month or every year, the British governor in Sri Lanka had to go begging from the crown or from the palace in Britain for loans. Okay, this is how the country was run for many years. Okay, several years. After 1815, the income of Sri Lanka, the British started realizing that Sri Lanka is not making enough income. So expenses were higher than the income. So every time we were short of money, the British governor had to go to Britain and ask for money, like loans. Okay, so the British government policy was not to give loans to run colonies. Okay, this was not their policy. The colonies had to bear the costs. The colonies had to function independently. They had to find their own income sources. The British government policy was not to feed the colonies. Okay, so after a few years, the British government decided, okay, this is not helping, this is not working out. Every month or every year, this governor is coming asking for money. We cannot let this happen like this anymore. Okay, so by 1829, now the situation became very worse. By 1829, the British government decided enough is enough. Enough is enough. We are going to appoint a commission. We're going to appoint a commission to look into what is the financial problem that Sri Lanka is going through and give us recommendations or solutions to overcome this situation. What is the situation? income is less than expenses. Okay, so in 1829 the British government appointed a commission led by one main person, that is William Colbrook. We normally call him Colbrook. Okay, Colbrook. So William Colbrook, we call him Colbrook normally. Okay, so Colbrook was the head of this commission. So the British government said, Colbrook, Mr. Colbrook, go to Sri Lanka. There's a situation in Sri Lanka, you know, every month or every year we cannot cope up with the expenses, and Sri Lanka is not making enough income. So go find a solution to this. Go study the situation, find a solution to this. Okay, so Colbrook came to Sri Lanka in 1829. Okay, Colbrook, there was a panel behind Colbrook as well. Some of them, you know, they dropped out. Finally, Colbrook was the main guy. Okay, Colbrook was the main man. He came to Sri Lanka in 1829. And by 1830, Colbrook was joined by another senior officer. He is Charles Cameron. Okay, so we will call him Cameron because it's easy to remember, right? That is how we remember, okay, these names. So Colbrook and Cameron. Charles Cameron, okay, not James Cameron. James Cameron is the director of Titanic and Avatar. Okay. Okay, anyway, Cameron is Cameron, so you can remember that Cameron. Okay, so Cameron, Colbrook, and Cameron. So Colbrook came to Sri Lanka in 1829, started studying the situation. Then Cameron joined him after 1 year. And Cameron was working on the legal system in our country, the judiciary system. Colbrook was working on the political and the economic system in our country. Colbrook was studying very deep about the political situation and the economic situation in the country in order to give recommendations to improve the situation. Okay, so why did Colbrook come? Because the British government was facing a problem in Sri Lanka. The income was less than the expenses. So in order to find solutions and to provide with recommendations to the British government, a commission was appointed led by Colbrook, and that's why Colbrook came to Sri Lanka in 1829. And Colbrook was later joined by Cameron, who worked on the legal system, who worked on reforming or bringing changes to the legal system of the country, or judiciary changes as we call it. Everybody got it up to now? Everybody okay? Yes?
Yes, sir.
Any questions? Please ask today. Right? Okay. Now Colbrook started studying today the situation, like you know, you also like to study, I know. Yeah. So yeah, Colbrook started studying very deep, analyzing the situation. Okay, what can be done so that, okay, Colbrook worked on two areas. Okay, that is how to increase the income of Sri Lanka and how to reduce the expenses. Okay, exactly the simple example that we discussed in the previous slide, right? So Colbrook was working on those two areas. So any recommendation that Colbrook gave can be either categorized into increasing the income or reducing the expenses. Okay, you will understand now better. All right. So that's what Colbrook was working on, and Cameron was working on the court system in the country. We call it the judiciary. Judiciary means the court system of a country. So how to basically properly standardize the court system or the legal system of the country was basically looked into by Charles Cameron. Okay, so William Colbrook worked on mainly the political and economic side of it. Okay, okay. So here, if you go to page number 52 in the book, I will upload the tute later. Don't worry, all the information in brief are there in the tute. It's very easy to read and understand. But from time to time, I want you to go to the book as well, because we can't mention everything in the tute sometimes. A few things in the book might need some explanation. So if you are, just in case if you are reading the book, you got to understand these things as well. Otherwise you will be like kind of, you know, scared when you see something in the book that you can't understand, right? So my duty as a teacher is to explain those, you know, special areas that might need a little more explanation. But in the tute, I have done already the good job there, right? Don't worry. Many students have benefited from this over the past 4 years. This is the 5th year of this class. So you're going to be fine, okay, by reading the tute also. But from time to time, we will go dig the book a little bit, not much, but a little bit, okay. So I want you to go to page number 52 here. It says there's a topic there, distinguished features of those reforms, Colbrook reforms, okay, mainly. This is what we are talking about, okay. Yeah. So what Colbrook said, Colbrook gave his recommendations. Okay, after a couple of years, Colbrook said, okay, dear British government, thank you so much for sending me here, Sri Lanka. I have done my duty. Okay, here's my report. Here's my recommendations. So it is up to you to decide. Are you following these recommendations or not? It is your job. My duty is to give recommendation. That is why I came here, right? So I have done my studies. I have done my part. So here's the recommendations. So he handed over his recommendations. Who? Colbrook. Okay. So then the British government studied the recommendations, right? And by 1833, the British government decided, looks like Colbrook has done a great job. Thank you, Colbrook. You have done a great job. So we are going to go ahead with your recommendations. Your recommendations look very good. So let's give it a try. Let's give it a shot. Yeah. So let's go with the recommendation. Let's go ahead with the recommendations. Who decided? The British government decided. So that is why we call this 1833 Colbrook Cameron reforms or Colbrook Cameron reforms of 1833. Okay, that is the first political reform that were introduced by the British to this country. Okay, so this is the most important thing here. So I want you to go to page number 52 to understand these reforms very well, but we will come to that in a moment. Okay, so this one, the Colbrook Cameron reforms of 1833 is the first political reforms introduced by the British. Before that, there were no political reforms. Okay, Colbrook dash Cameron. Okay, because there are two people, right? So Colbrook Cameron reforms of 1833, the first political changes or first political reforms introduced by the British to our country. Okay, you need to remember that very well. And in this lesson, we will learn several other political reforms introduced by the British as well. Okay, next one came in 1910 and the next one in 1920, 1924, 1931 and 1945. These are the stuff we are going to learn in this lesson. Okay, I just want to give you a quick glimpse of what we are going to learn in this lesson. Okay, so in 1910 we had another reform, we call it Crewe-McCallum reforms. 1920 we had another reform, Manning reforms. Okay, Manning constitutional reforms. 1924 we had another reforms, Manning Devonshire constitutional reforms. These are mostly named after people. Okay, you can know from the names that I am just mentioning. So in 1931 we had another very important reform, that is the Donamo reforms, Donamo constitutional reforms. In 1945 we had another one, the Salisbury constitutional reforms. You learned these in grade 9. I know you have forgotten this by now, right? Sri Lankans are very good at forgetting, no? Yeah, very, very good at forgetting. Experts in forgetting, okay? And very weak in remembering. Okay, right. Anyway. All right. So these are the stuff that we are going to learn in this lesson. So to begin with, we will go with 1833, the first political reform introduced by the British. That is the Colbrook Cameron reforms. Okay, right. So what are the changes introduced by Colbrook? Now you can point out with the change, you can analyze what is the reform, what is the change, what is the recommendation of Colbrook. From that you can understand, okay, he wanted to increase the income or reduce the expenses using this, right? Okay. So some of these reforms were aimed at standardizing the political structure of the country as well. So bad decisions related to economy and everything doesn't happen. Okay, I will come to that. We will come to that step by step, right? So we will now learn deeply about the changes, the reforms introduced by Colbrook and Cameron. Okay, right. Go to page number 52 with me. Right, let's go together. Okay, right. So the first reform is establishment of the executive and the legislative council. We will come to this in deep later. Establishment of the, you can write this also, because when you write this, you have a big chance to remember this. So you might have to write them again in your exam. They might ask you to write a couple, so and explain also. So it's better you write them, so chances are very high that you remember them at the same time. Certain things like we don't write much in this class, right? We discuss only mostly, but occasionally we write things like this which are very important. So write with me, okay? Establishment of the legislative, sorry, we will go with executive first. Executive and legislative councils. Okay, what is this? I will come to this. Okay, yeah. And the second one is introduction of a ruling system which combine both upcountry and low country. Third one, dividing the island into 5 provinces. I will write that as a second one. Okay, I like this one. That's then repealing or abolishing. I like this word abolishing. Okay, I don't like this repealing. I don't know how they ran out of words or what. So abolishing, I like this word. Okay, abolishment or yeah, abolishment of the compulsory. I'm going to explain these. Okay, don't worry. Service system. Let's write them first so we remember them. Okay, I'm not writing everything. I'm writing the most important thing. I skipped the second one. Okay, for example. And discontinuation, or you can also say abolishing. Keep it simple. The trade monopoly of the government. Write them down, try to remember them. I'll be back in a minute. Anputa is telling me that he cannot hear me. I wasn't talking. Right. Okay. Everybody okay? Yeah. Right. So I made a small sketch here so you can understand this better. It's easy for me to explain as well. Okay. You can copy this sketch so you can't forget it after that. Right. I will tell you what to remember and what you can ignore. Okay. Right. So in order to standardize the political structure in the country, Colbrook recommended, let's start an executive council, let's establish an executive council, and let's establish a legislative council. Now what the executive council will do, executive means the decision making, okay, decision making authority of a country, okay, decision making. So executive means the body that implements the law of a country, okay. So executive means making decisions whether to implement a law or not. That decision is made by the executive of a country. Today in Sri Lanka we have a president who is the executive, okay. He is the executive of the country, okay. So some countries have a group of people who are executives. For example, in India, you have the prime minister who is the executive, not the president. In India, president is like a statue, okay, like a scarecrow, no use, right? President is only for namesake in India. So prime minister has the executive powers, okay. He will make decisions for the country. So in some countries, prime minister and the cabinet, in India also, but in India, prime minister has the most power, right? But in some countries, you can see the cabinet of ministers, okay, like the prime minister and the set of ministers, they all will get together and make decisions, okay, yeah. So this can be one person or a group of persons, okay. Like executive of a country means the body that makes the decisions, or the body that has power to make decisions for the country, okay, that is the executive. Then the legislature means, the legislature of a country means the body that makes the law for the country, okay, or passes the law. Passing the law, it can be passing new laws or it can be amending existing laws. Amending means changing, okay. And it can be cancelling unwanted laws or abolishing unnecessary laws, or making amendments or changes to laws, or introducing new laws. Everything is done by the parliament, okay, today. So Colbrook suggested, let's establish 2 councils. One council will be the decision making council, the executive council, The other council will be the council that will make the law for the country, that is the legislative council, similar to the parliament we have today. Okay, that is the legislative council. Their duty is the same. Okay, their duty is the same. So executive council means the most important, this is a superior council, okay, the super council of the country. This is what Colbrook suggested. So executive council will be headed by the governor, okay, the governor. Now the purpose of Colbrook introducing this executive council is, Colbrook thought, let's reduce the powers of the governor. Okay, so let's put the governor in a council for that. Okay, how this worked, let me explain. Colbrook thought the governor is having too much power in the country. Now, for example, the governor was asking for money, for example, right? The governor did not have enough income, so the governor was asking for money from the British, king or queen. Then this is a problem, right? Yeah. And also, what if the governor made a wrong decision? So the whole colony is in danger, right? If the governor made a wrong economic decision, for example, the governor made a wrong move, that means the whole colony is in trouble. Yeah. So look at Colbrook's thinking. Okay. Colbrook is no ordinary guy. Colbrook is a genius. Okay. So what Colbrook did here, he suggested, he recommended, let's make it a council. Let's make a council. Let's make a panel of members that can help the governor make the right decisions. Okay. So the governor's powers will also be reduced in this case. How? Let's say, for example, if the governor wanted to make any decision, there were several members in this council, which is called the executive council. So the governor has to consult the experts before making any decision. Let me take a good example from modern day politics as well for this, okay, to explain you better, to help you understand. Okay, here in this executive council, there was the governor. Governor is still the top. Governor is like the king, okay, in the country. The governor is appointed by the British government to our country. He is like the king, okay. He is in charge of the colony. He is called the governor, okay. He is the senior officer, most senior officer who will report to the king, who will be appointed by the king himself, or king or queen, okay. Yeah, that is the governor. That is the post of governor. Governor is like a, you see, governor is like an ambassador, like a minister that is in charge of a colony. Okay, so governor is a big post in the British Empire. Okay, governor is in charge of the country. He can do whatever he wants in the country. Okay, yeah. So that is why Colbrook recommended, let's reduce the powers of the governor, because what if he made a wrong economic decision? The economy of the colony will suffer. So we will have to pay that money, right? The British government has to take the cost. Yeah, okay. So who are in this council? The secretary of the colony. Secretary of the colony is the administration officer appointed to the colony. And then head surveyor. Head surveyor is the officer in charge for the lands and everything in the country. Head surveyor. And cashier of the Colombo Customs is the cashier. Normally cashier means those who collecting money, but here this cashier post is under the British government, is a very big post. He's like the collector. Okay, so cashier of the Colombo Customs means he's in charge of all the imports and export taxes and everything. Okay, so Colombo Customs was under him, cashier. Then treasurer, he is in charge of state wealth. He is in charge of the wealth of the country, all accounts, all wealth, literally. Yeah, like the wealth you have, the properties you have, everything will be under the treasurer. Then accountant will be in charge of making the accounts, making the budgets and stuff. Okay, chief accountant. So these senior officers of the government were gathered and put in an executive council. Okay, executive council. The governor is still the head of this executive council. So the governor still can make decisions. Okay, what Colbrook said, we will put the governor, we will make an executive council. These are the officers. The governor can make decisions still, but before making decisions, the governor has to consult the experts. Okay, experts. Let's say, for example, the governor is deciding to build a road. Okay, build a Colombo Candy road. Okay, the governor is deciding, we don't have enough roads. We don't have a proper road between Colombo and Candy. We are going to build a road. So he has to consult The head surveyor, for example, okay, do we have lands? How to get the lands to do this? He has to consult the accountant. Okay, do we have enough cash to do this? Accountant will say, no, we don't have cash. Don't go, don't do this. My recommendation is don't do this, don't make this road. We don't have cash, we don't have income. We we are running short of cash, we can't pay the bills. Don't do this. Head survey will say, let's say we don't have lands, don't do this, difficult to get lands, whatever. But the governor still decide, okay, you can go to hell. Okay, I'm do it. Governor can still do it. But what if it goes wrong? Then the governor has to answer the British king. Okay, that is a problem. So what Colbrook did here, he basically checkmated the governor, right? He basically kept the governor in check. The governor can't move freely now because the governor has to consult the experts before doing anything. Okay, otherwise it's a problem, right? Okay, that's a problem. So one good example for this is the failure of one of our presidents recently, Gotabaya Rajapaksa. Okay, so let's take that example here. When Gotabaya Rajapaksa came to power, there were many experts like this who were giving him wrong advice. Okay, one main wrong advice that was given to him was when COVID came, when the pandemic came, one advice was given to him by the central bank governor in this case, that let's keep the dollar. Maybe the decision came from himself and the central bank governor approved. Whatever it is, it's a wrong decision, very wrong decision. Okay, the wrong decision is let's keep the dollar in a standard rate, 200 rupees. Okay, but actually our income, our foreign revenue, our income was hit during COVID. We did not have any income. Okay, tourists were not coming to the country, we did not have exports going out of the country, so we were starting to experience a big economic crisis. Okay, you got to understand these things very well. Okay, in order to understand history properly, you got to understand politics also properly. It doesn't mean that you should do politics. We are not doing politics, we are learning politics. Okay, everybody should learn politics. Okay, this is my opinion. Because you didn't learn politics properly, we didn't learn politics properly, our dads, our granddads did not learn politics properly, our country is struggling today. Okay, otherwise we could have been a very good country if the people of our country learned politics properly and appointed good people to rule the country. This is one of the biggest mistakes that we did in our history. Okay, not learning politics properly. Learning politics is one thing, doing politics is another thing. Doing politics also you can do if you like. It's a free country, anybody have freedom to do anything they want. But learning politics, everybody must do it. Okay, yeah, right. So then we maintain the dollar, we maintain the dollar against all, market opinions, everything. The bank put a rate to the dollar, we are paying only this much to the dollar, 200 rupees, $1 is 200 rupees. So we know then even the dollars that are coming to Sri Lanka stopped coming. Then we had a huge dollar crisis. Then we could not pay for our gas. We could not bring petrol because we didn't have dollars to pay for petrol. We did not have dollars to pay for gas. That is why there were gas polling and petrol polling. Okay, you understand what I'm saying? So then we don't have dollars now, right, to pay, and we already, because of that, mainly that bad decision, wrong decision. Okay, to hold the dollar, right? One simple wrong decision. Okay, looks very simple, but literally the country went into chaos, crisis, and still we are trying to come out of it, right? Yeah, we have not come out of it yet. Okay, I don't know how long it's gonna take. So one bad decision can ruin a country. Okay, so look at Colbrook. We need a Colbrook here in Sri Lanka more than ever, right? You understand what I'm saying? So look at Colbrook. What he did, he checked the governor, right? He checked the governor how. Okay, the governor is still the head of the executive council. He can make the decisions, but before he made any decision, he has to consult the experts. Okay, he had to consult the experts. So, for example, our presidents could have consulted more experts. They just, Gotabaya Rajapaksa, for example, he just made some bold decisions and then it backfired, and the whole country went into a crisis. You know what happened after that, right? So this is, we are still trying to come out of it. You understand, one wrong decision can ruin a country. Okay, this is very important for you to understand. So look at Colbrook's theory here. He basically tried to reduce the power of the governor by bringing in experts. So the governor had to consult those experts before making a decision. That is the whole point behind the executive council. Okay. Then Colbrook also recommended, let's make a legislative council. Okay, let's make another council to make the law for the country. And in this council, there will be 15 members. There will be 15 members to this council. 9 members will be called official members. These official members will be appointed by the governor. Here's the connection now. Appointed by the governor. I will come to this later. Okay. Then 6 members will be unofficial members. 6 members unofficial members. Now you tell me, out of these two groups, who has the more power? Who has more power? Official members or unofficial members? What do you think?
Official.
Because of the number, right? Yeah, number 9, right? Okay. 9 official members, 6 unofficial members. Okay, we'll come to that later. Then out of the 6 unofficial members, 3 members were European businessmen. European businessmen who came as investors to our country to start plantation business, to start estate cultivation, for example. 3 were appointed to this council, and 1 Sinhala member was appointed, 1 Tamil representative was appointed, 1 Burgher representative was appointed. Okay, no Muslim representative. Muslims were very, I would say, at this stage in 1833, this the number of Muslims are very limited in the country. But later we can see one more Muslim representative also getting added to this after 1868. So this is in 1833. Okay, 1833. So this is the composition of these two councils in 1833. Okay, right. Now what is the problem here? Now let's talk with unofficial members first. The problem here is the British decided, okay, Colbrook did a good thing. Legislative council is good, but this is not good. Okay, 1 Sinhala, 1 Tamil, 1 Burgher. This is dividing based on ethnicity, right? This dividing the people based on religion or ethnicity or communities, right? So this proved to be a big problem later on. Okay, so the British policy from here onwards was divide and rule. Okay, you don't let the Sri Lankans unite. Okay, so they could have put like Sri Lankans. Okay, 3 Sri Lankans like this. Instead, they look to divide the people. Sinhala, Tamil, Muslim, Burgher, like that. Okay, so this proved to be a problem later on, right? With people starting to think separately. Sinhala people starting to think separately, Tamil people starting to think as a separate community, Muslim people starting to think like a separate community, Burghers starting to think like a separate community. Then the whole Sri Lankan point, like, one united Sri Lanka, that concept, is a little disturbed. This is the starting point of that problem. Okay, I would say the British started this. They did not want a united Sri Lanka. Okay, they wanted to keep the people divided, right? So this is one step they took, okay, to do that, right? Okay, so 3 European businessmen, again, European businessmen were given big opportunity here. Anyway, we come to that later. Okay, right. Then here there were 9 official members appointed by the governor. Okay, the governor had the power to appoint 9 official members to the legislative council. Who are these 9 official members? These members are already senior members of the government normally. Okay, now let me take a simple example for this, right? Simple example. Now, you remember COVID, right? You were, how old were you then? When COVID hit, you were in grade 6, yes? Correct?
Yes, sir.
When COVID came, okay. Did you enjoy the lockdowns? Yeah. Did you enjoy or you hated it? For some time you enjoyed it, right? Then you started hating it, is it? Okay. Now, during COVID, okay, the president, right? We'll put president. Okay. The president appointed in order to handle the situation in the country, the president of our country, then president was Mr. Gotabaya Rajapaksa. He appointed a presidential task force. Good example to help you understand this one. Okay, this concept. So during COVID, a task force was appointed by the president in order to tackle, in order to spread, in order to stop the spreading of COVID and take controls. Okay, to put measures to control the spread of COVID and to manage the relief activities and everything. Okay, how to provide relief to the people and how to manage the whole situation, how to manage the hospitals, how to educate the people or of the spreading of the virus. All these things were put under this task force. Okay, presidential task force, Janadipati Karyasadhaka Balakaya කියලා සිංහලෙන් කියනවා. Okay, so in this task force there were, I still remember, there were officers like this. The head of this task force was General Shavendra Silva. General Shavendra Silva was the army commander at that time. Okay, then there were other members, for example, the IGP of the police, or DIG, one DIG was appointed in the police. Then the chief doctor or the director of the Colombo General Hospital in Colombo, like that, very senior officers in the government were appointed to this task force. Okay, who have power? The PHI, head of all the PHI. Okay, the chief PHI or the director of the PHIs. Yeah, you might have seen they are coming to the TV. If you might have watched news, have you seen them? Like they are coming and educating the people and they are telling what they have done so far. There were many people like that. Already they are senior officers in the government. They already have a lot of responsibility. For example, General Shavendra Silva was already the commander of the army. He had many responsibilities. But you see, because of the positions they already hold in the government, they became automatically eligible to take part in this task force to prevent COVID. Understand what I'm saying? So because when you are already holding a high position or high responsibilities, you automatically become eligible for other responsibilities also. It will be the same. Even today it's the same. Okay, just because when there's a senior officer who's already holding a lot of responsibility, he can also hold additional responsibilities. He will also be called. Okay, can you join this committee? Can you join this commission? They will be getting invitations. Okay, like all the time, right? Can you help with this one? Can you help with that one? Okay. So here, this is the same concept here. These 9 official members were already holding high positions in the government. And then the governor decided, okay, this guy is already holding a high position in the government. So he should be in the legislative council. He should be helping make the law for the country, like that. Okay. So this concept is called ex-officio. Ex-officio. Okay. Ex-officio means you already are a high senior member in the government or senior officer in the government. Because of the senior post that you are already holding, you are eligible to hold additional responsibilities. That is what we call the ex officio concept. So these 9 official members were appointed as ex officio. They are already eligible. They are senior members of the government, senior officers of the government. So because of that responsibility that they had, they already qualified to sit in the legislative council, and the governor decided to appoint 9 members like that on the basis of ex officio. Now everybody understand the basis of ex officio, the concept? Yes, Pute? Yeah, we took a modern day example also for you to help understand this. Yeah, okay. Everybody got it? No? Yeah. All right.
Yes,
Now what is the Now what is the problem with this council, with the legislative council? Let's say now what is the job of the legislative council? To make the law for the country, to do development for the country, to bring new laws to the country, to make the economic development to the country, to bring laws to make development activities in the country. These are the duties of the legislative council. Okay. So now the problem in the legislative council is it's imbalanced. There were 9 official members. There were only 6 unofficial members. Now Take a simple example, okay? There are 15 members and let's say we want to build a road between Colombo and Badul, okay? We want to build a road between, this is the project, yeah? Colombo and Badul. We want to build a road. That is a big project, right? Will the, now during the British time, you think that you are living in the British times, okay? Now you are a member of the Legislative Council. Think like that, okay? Right. Now, is it a good thing to build a road between Colombo and Badulla? Now, there's no road between Colombo and Badulla. So, is it a good thing to build a road between Colombo and Badulla? Yes or no?
Yeah.
Yeah, of course. Yeah. All right. Now, tell me who out of these 15 members who will agree to this? Okay. Will the 3 European businessmen agree for a new road between Colombo and Badulla? They already have estates in Badulla, Bandaravilla. They already have coffee estates, tea estates.
Yes.
What do you think? They will agree. Yeah, 100%. Okay. Will the single person agree? Will the single representative agree to this? This is our country. Something good happening to our country. Will we agree or disagree? Or will we agree to disagree? Yeah?
Agree.
100%, right? Agreed. What about the Tamil representative? Will he agree? Good thing for the country, right? He will also agree. Burger person also will agree because we are going to live in this country. Single Tamil Muslim, Burger Malay, no problem. End of the day, Sri Lankans, right? So anything happening to Sri Lanka, anything good happening to Sri Lanka, we all agree, right? Yeah. Okay. Then we have 6 members agreeing to this. Let's say the governor doesn't like it. Governor says, I don't have the money, I don't want this road. Then will the 9 official members agree? Because the governor doesn't like it. Because governor appointed them, okay? Governor appointed them. And these 9 members have to listen to the governor, definitely, right? Because they were appointed by the governor, right? They were appointed because they were loyal to the governor, okay? They would not go against the governor. So they would hold the same opinion as the governor. So let's say, suppose the governor doesn't like any development happening to the country. These 9 members will object this. So will this law pass in the Legislative Council? Does this law this bill doesn't have enough strength. So out of these 15 members, at least 8 members should agree for something to happen, for something to pass. Okay, so that is called the majority. Yeah. So if more than half of the members agree to a new law, that becomes law. If many people don't agree, it doesn't get passed. The bill doesn't pass in the Legislative Council. So this is the problem in the Legislative Council because the number of official members were greater than the unofficial members and the governor had direct influence on the official members. Everybody understand the disadvantage of the Legislative Council here? Yes? Right. So Colbrook did a good job, a good start, but the numbering was simply not helping. All right. Now, let me tell you a very important thing. You don't have to remember these numbers. Okay. Yeah. That is the most important thing. That is the most satisfying thing for you, right? Yeah. So there are many numbers like this which are coming up in this lesson. We do not expect you to remember the numbers. Okay. You just remember that in 1833, an executive council was established. The head of that executive council was the governor, but there were several advisors or experts who were already senior officers like the secretary of the colonies, chief accountant, treasurer, then chief surveyor or head surveyor. They were there. And then you need to remember there was a legislative council. If you can remember there were 15 members, remember, no problem. But in this legislative council, there were 2 types of members: official members and unofficial members. Official members were appointed by the governor based on this concept called ex-officio. I explained you what that is. Then only 6 were unofficial members, and the official members were powerful than the unofficial members. The governor still had influence on the legislative council because the number of the official members were greater than the unofficial members. So whatever the governor decides would happen in the legislative council here in this case. Literally, in other words, the legislative council was like a, we can say, pawn of the governor. Okay, because 9 members were controlled by the governor. So that is very unfortunate. That is a disadvantage that we had. So that's about the executive council and the legislative council proposed by Colbrook adopted by the British government. Everybody okay, Bute? Everybody okay? This is done. Any questions from executive and legislative council? Please ask, because you can't move forward if you don't know the concept properly. There will be questions from this in your levels. Yeah.
So will you explain me that ex-official members?
Again?
Will you explain me that ex-official appointed by the governor?
Yeah, I explained already. Do you want me to explain again?
Yeah.
All right. So ex officio mean there were 9 official members. Okay. So ex officio, this concept means these members are appointed by the governor, and these members are already holding high positions in the government in some other department. Okay. Like I took the example of this COVID times, we had this presidential task force. This example was taken to explain this one. So if you are already a senior member, a senior officer in the government, you are automatically getting eligible to sit in the legislative council if the governor recommends. This is what you call ex officio. So any government officer, any senior government officer, because of the seniority of the post that he is holding, he will sometimes be eligible to sit in committees, councils like this. That concept is called ex officio. Okay. Got it?
Okay,
Yeah.
sir.
So you take another example. Yeah. You take another example. Simple example. Okay. Let's take another example from your school. Okay. Now let's say there's a senior teacher in your school. Okay. Senior teacher in your school. Very senior. Okay. Maybe he or she was there since the beginning of the school. Okay. He's very senior. Even the principal is new, but the teacher is even senior than the principal. Okay, let's say. All right. So he will only be teaching, or he will be holding many responsibilities. Yeah. Teaching plus he will be, sometimes he or she will be discipline in charge, prefects in charge, sports in charge, maybe other responsibilities will be there, right? He or she will be sitting in other committees, other meetings, other councils, because he is already senior. Okay, he or she is already senior, he is already eligible to hold other responsibilities. So these 9 official members were also like that. They were already senior officers in the government in some other departments, and because of their seniority they are eligible, and they were appointed by the governor to the legislative council. Okay, got it? No?
Yeah.
Yeah. All right. Any other questions, Uday? Because you got to understand this concept better. If you have any questions, please ask.
Sir,
Yeah.
I mean, if Colbrook was such a genius in inventing this concept,
Okay.
didn't he look into that number problem? Like the fact that the government might control the.
Yeah. Here's the thing. Okay, like end of the day, what you need to understand is Colbrook is also a British. Okay, Colbrook is not a Sri Lankan Nobody. Yeah. So obviously anything that he introduced, okay, what he did, he wanted to reduce the power of the governor, true. But at the same time, what we need to understand is he is a member of the British government. He was appointed by the British government. So he was working to the interests of the British government. Okay. He was not working to the betterment of the Sri Lankan people. He was working literally for the betterment of the British colony. Okay, his duty was that, nobody. So we need to understand that. That is why he would have come up with these numbers. For example, let me tell you, for example, because you got to understand this, right? So here you see he came to basically increase the income and reduce the expenses of the colony. So let's say, for example, okay, example, right? Out of these 15 members, he said, okay, 9 unofficial and 6 official. Okay, 6 official and 9 unofficial. Then you have 3 singular people, 3 Europeans, then two Tamils and one burger, something like that. Okay, let's say example. Then these 9 people will have a lot of power. Then everything in the legislative council will happen according to these 9 people. So definitely, we are going to come up with good things for the country, and maybe the good things that we are coming up for the country, our representatives are coming up for the country, might not benefit the British. So then there's a bit of a crisis situation, right? Because the British don't want something and the Sri Lankans want something, so there's already, it's a conflict there. So still Colbrook is a genius because he was working for the British government. He understood his responsibility very well. So we can't blame him for that. Even if I am Colbrook, I would have done the same thing. Maybe, yeah, who knows? You understand what I'm saying? So he was working for the British government. So he had to make sure that the governor is strong enough at the same time. Okay, and the colony, a colony will function smooth without any hindrances from, just because he appointed people like this to make the Sri Lankans happy, nothing else. Okay, little happy, right? Not very happy, little happy. Got it? Yeah.
Thank you.
So this is the big picture. This is a very good question. Thank you for asking that, because this is how you should be questioning yourself, right? Like you should look at the big picture. Why? You should always ask the question why. Logically thinking. Now that will help you answer many questions in O levels also very easily, right? When you develop this logical thinking. So you got to think from multiple angles. Why like this? Why did he do this? Why did sometimes, many things, why, when you go and find out why he did this, from his side, it is correct. He wouldn't have had another choice. That's there. Not only in Colbrook case, I'm saying in many things. Yeah. So we got to understand, as proper history students, we got to understand different people's perspectives and circumstances, as we call it, right? So different circumstances will lead to different decisions to be made. And yeah, sometimes you can't blame the people also for taking those decisions. Maybe the best decision at that time was that. Yeah. Okay. So what we can do is, if a mistake was happened, we can learn from that mistake. We can make sure that the mistake doesn't repeat again. That is what we can learn from history. Okay. Yeah. Another reform is the second one in page number 52. Introduction of a ruling system which combined the upcountry and low country. And third one is dividing the country into 5 provinces. Now, before Colbrook reforms, the Candian Kingdom itself, there was a separate administrative system for upcountry and low country. Upcountry was administered separately. Low country was administered separately. Officers were different, okay, for upcountry and low country administration. So when the British took over the Candian Kingdom, they literally almost continued the same procedures, okay. Upcountry, low country, they were separately administered. Because the reason for that is many aristocrats joined the British, right? Many aristocrats basically supported the British. That is how the British were able to capture Kandy, right? So most of the things were continued, okay, from the Candian Kingdom, right? Most of the things were like administration things were continuing. So then Colbrook realized you don't need to have a separate administration system for upcountry and low country. So let's combine them together. He combined them together. So everything was standardized, we can say. All officers were all positions were made different and officers became standard. Okay, no separate officers for upcountry and low country now. And also there were about 16, if I remember, there were about 16 to 18 provinces in the country after the British took over. Okay, the British administered the country into about 18 provinces. Colbrook said, the third point here, 18 too much. Sri Lanka is a small country. Let's divide the country into 5 provinces. So what is the goal here? You think and tell me. Think and tell me now.
To
Why?
reduce the expenses.
Exactly. Very good. Yeah. Very good. 18 provinces. Now you have 5 provinces. So you don't need a lot of officers now, right? You don't need to pay a lot of salaries, lot of officers, maintaining a lot of officers for those officers, and a lot of income, a lot of expenses for them. No need, right? So this is one of the main objectives of Colbrook, right? Like divide the country into only 5 provinces. That is with the goal of reducing the expenses. Okay, so we can see the 5 provinces here in the map in page number 53. Northern province, Eastern province, Western province, Southern and Central. Today we have 9. So these are the 5 provinces introduced by Colbrook. Okay, right. Then we come to another very important thing, abolishing the compulsory service system. Okay, right. Everybody understand over there? The provinces thing, up country, low country, combination of the administration of up country and low country. No big deal there, right? Yeah, okay. Then compulsory service system, abolishing, this is a very important thing, okay? Let me explain this properly to you. Now, compulsory service system is sometimes called Rajakari. So there was a system since the Kandyan kingdom, since the kingdom times, there was a system called the compulsory service system. This is sometimes called the Rajakariya system in Sinhala, Rajakariya system. Or in English, sometimes this is called the duty labor system. Okay, duty labor system. Now, this is a very complicated thing, but I will try to keep it very simple here for the ease of understanding. Okay, there are many phases of the compulsory service system. This is what I wanted to tell you. So basically, during the king's times, there was a system called Rajakarya. Raja means with a Rajuru, king. Karya means Karya, work, king's duty. Rajakarya. Everybody, you see, with a in simple terms, the king was the owner of all lands in the country. Okay, we learned this in unit number 8, grade 10. Remember, king was the owner of all lands in the country, and based on the service that you provide to the king might give you lands. Okay, like Gabadagam, Nindagam. You know, we learn about those in Kandyan kingdom, right? Paravenigam, Nindagam, Gabadagam, Viharagam, Devalagam. Remember, so that is one side of it. Okay, so like if you are enjoying king's lands, you have to work for the king. Okay, that is one side of it. Or the king also had another policy, like if the king calls you for any work, you have to go because you are at the king's service. Okay, so for example, the kings had a roster, like every person has to work certain days in a year for the king. It can be doing anything. Okay, any activity. Okay, right? It can be fighting a war, it can be joining the military and serving, for example, or guarding the palace. It can be engaging in agriculture, it can be building roads, building tanks, building temples, things like that. Okay, like common activities. So it is called a compulsory service system. You must do that. Under the Kandyan kingdom, this was there. Rajakari system, compulsory service system. Then when the British took over, this was still continuing in another way, little bit another way, because you are not now working for the king, but instead you are now working for the aristocrats. You are now working for the aristocrats who held high positions in the British government as well. And you are also working for the village councils, which is called the Gam Sabha. Okay, we come to that Gam Sabha thing in unit number 5 properly. Here we are not discussing so much. Here we are focused on the political reforms. Okay, right. For you to easily understand, I'm keeping it a little simple. So what is the duty labor system? What is the compulsory service system? It was a mandatory type of service system that everybody had to work certain number of days in a year for no money, for no salary. Okay, right. So Colbrook decided, okay, this compulsory service system is not helping the economy grow because people have to work for no salary and people are not released to work from their areas to other areas. So Colbrook saw one of the main changes that Colbrook was thinking to do was to introduce the estate cultivation in Sri Lanka. Okay, like the large scale commercial cultivation. In order to introduce large-scale commercial cultivation, you need laborers to work in those estates. So you got to make sure that you have enough people available to work. So this compulsory service system was a hindrance to that, because under the compulsory service system, under the British, the aristocrats that, who were from the Candian kingdom, coming from the Candian kingdom, they literally exploited the people here, and they were like, slaves. People were like slaves under aristocrats. Okay, they were working for the aristocrats. So Colbrook, this is the bigger picture here. Okay, some things are not there in the book as well, but I'm telling you from the extra knowledge, right? I have. So basically, Colbrook decided this compulsory under this compulsory service system, we don't have enough laborers to work in the estates. So our plan is to bring European investors and start commercial cultivation in Sri Lanka. We need people to work in those estates. This compulsory service system or duty labor system is a hindrance to that. So let's cancel it. Okay, so this is one recommendation by Colbrook. Okay, abolish the compulsory service system and starting of a paid labor system. So these people were paid after that for their labor, for their work. Okay, so under the compulsory service system, people had to work a certain number of days building roads and stuff. They were not paid. You don't get paid for that. Okay, but under that's a good thing by Colbrook, we can say. Good things are also there by the British. Okay, for example, yeah, good things also, that there are a lot of good things that the British did to our country. Many bad things, I mean, a few good things. So we need to appreciate the good things also. Let me tell you one example which is not there in the book. There in some areas there was a tradition of, I have to say this, right? These are historically proven. There was a tradition of in some areas, okay, the tradition of killing girls, okay, girl babies, okay. There were stuff like that going on in some castes in the country, okay. So girl babies were killed, all right. Only boys were kept. Some few castes in the country, some area, some villages. Colbrook put a stop to it. Okay, Colbrook said no, this should stop. So I'm cancelling Gam Sabha system, and I'm cancelling the compulsory service system. So these were good things that he did. Okay, we got to appreciate the good things. We got to reject the bad things. Okay, this is what we do as a history class. We try to stay neutral. Okay, we try to stay unbiased. Okay, that is the best thing. So good things we will see as good, bad things we will see as bad. Okay, we will criticize. Okay, right. So that is not there in your book. That is some extra knowledge that I gave you. So there are good things as well. Like still we are practicing many standards given to us by the British. That is a good thing. Like for example, the military army ranks, even the uniforms of the nurse, for example, in the hospital, the PHI uniform, the the customs uniform, the police uniform, those are all coming from the British standards. Okay, the ranking systems, everything. Yeah, so those are high standards, right? Good standards, so we can stay in line with the world, right? Okay. Good things are good, bad things are bad. Bad things, there are many. We discussed about that, the bad things that the British did in unit number 2, you remember. Yeah, good things were also there, right? Okay. So abolishing the compulsory service system, done. Right. Then the last one is the discontinuation of the trade monopoly of the government. Now, what is monopoly? Anybody know the meaning of monopoly? Yeah, anybody? Monopoly, last year when I asked this question, one guy said, Monopoly is a game, something like that. Have you? Yeah? Have you played that?
Yes, sir.
Monopoly? Okay. So you think Monopoly is a game or something else?
Monopoly is the authority in the market or something.
Yeah, Monopoly is the sole authority. Like only you can do something. Okay, Monopoly is that, right? When you have too much power in a market to do something, not only in a market but also in other political arena, for example. Yeah, something that is called a monopoly. Tell me a simple example. Monopoly, almost a monopoly, we can say, of rice in the country. With whom is it there? Rice, distribution of rice in our country. Yeah. What is the main rice brand in our country? They hold
Araliya.
kind of a, they hold a monopoly. They hold a big kind of a monopoly, a big market share. This is called a market share. It's not a complete monopoly, but it's like almost that. If they stopped, everybody, they cannot supply, others cannot supply. Okay. RLE is the main supply example. Okay. Then the government, in our government has a monopoly in railway, for example. Only the government is operating trains, right? So it's a government monopoly in the railway system in the country. Okay. Are there any private companies operating trains in the country? Buses we have. Buses we have SLTB, Sri Lanka Transport Board, and we have private buses. Do we have private trains? No. Then meaning that the train, the railway is a government monopoly. Okay. So there are other monopolies also in the government. For example, distribution of fuel, for example. Yeah, distribution of weapons, for example. Like you need a gun, you have to get a permit. Only the government will issue that. Based on that is because the government monopoly. Government will decide who can import weapons, who will be eligible for gun permits or gun license, these kind of thing. That is what you call a monopoly. So monopoly means the sole authority over something you have, right? So during the British rule, the British government had a trade monopoly on business. What are these? What is this? Basically, this is related to cinnamon and salt, for example. Okay. So spices, the trading of spices, everything were under the government monopoly. You cannot do anything without the government permission. So mostly the cinnamon trade was done only by the government. Example. Okay, cinnamon trade. So that is what you call a trade monopoly. Okay, where you are dealing with some trade items and only the government is doing that. That is a monopoly. Okay. So what Colbrook suggested, look, British government, you are having this monopoly, you are hanging on to this power and authority, you are the only one who's doing trade. The country cannot develop. Colbrook said, abolish the monopoly. Give the powers to the private sector. Let the private investors come here, bring their money, start businesses, bring their investment, start estate cultivation or start commercial crops cultivation, and let them earn the money. Let them pay you tax. You increase the income. Simple thing what you need to do is you abolish the trade monopoly you have. Then let the private investors come in, get their money, and the business will grow. Okay, so this is what Colebrook suggested. So Colebrook is a genius for many reasons, right? Colebrook is a decent guy, right? Like you understand the things that he, like I said before, he worked for the British government, so he had to basically work for the interest of the British government. Okay, so all the recommendations he made are either to increase the income or reduce the expenses of the British government. Okay, so that was his duty, and he did it well, we can say, because what he did, he said, abolish the trade monopoly of the government. Let the money come in from the private investors. Let them come, let them bring their money. The economy will grow. Okay. So this is another important recommendation by William Colbrook. Everybody got it, no? Yeah. Any questions? So next week we will talk about the 1910 reforms. Okay, 1910, that needs a little explanation here. Yeah, then we will talk about it next week. And today we are going to talk another area, that is the struggles of Europeans. Okay, so right now I told you earlier that the Legislative Council had 15 members, 9 members were official, 6 members were unofficial, These 9 members were automatically appointed because of their positions that they are holding in the government. These 6 members were also nominated by the governor, okay, but these 6 members were 3 Europeans, 1 Sinhala, 1 Tamil and 1 Burgher, okay, Sinhala, Tamil, Burgher, unofficial, UO, these are official. Then these are European businessmen, EB, okay, right, this is the composition of the Legislative Council under Colbrook, okay, right. Now I also told you that this is very unfavorable, especially for the development of the country. So these European businessmen were also appointed by the governor, okay, like these 6 members were also appointed under the guidance of the governor. So literally the governor had the power in the Legislative Council. This is what you need to understand. So what happened, there were many European businessmen came to Sri Lanka, brought their money, bought lands in Sri Lanka, started estate cultivation in Sri Lanka. We explained a little bit about this, you remember, in unit number 2, right, when we discussed about 1848 battle for freedom. I touched on that a little bit deep because to help you understand this better, okay? Yeah, so right. Then there were many European businessmen who came to our country, bought lands, lands were made free because of the policies like, the Barren Land Act of 1840, for example. Yeah. So lands were made free. Then European businessmen came and they bought a lot of lands. They started estate cultivation. They became owners of huge estates. Yeah. And there were many businessmen, European businessmen, British businessmen who came to our country who brought a lot of money. But only 3 people were appointed based on the governor's liking, for example, here. So the European businessmen started realizing that their voice is not heard. For example, they wanted roads to be built in the country. For example, they wanted good roads to go to the estates, to transport the crops, to transport the harvest from the estates to the factories, and coffee, Sincona, cocoa, these cultivations were started. Then later tea and everything was started. So the European businessmen wanted infrastructure development in the country, including the roads. Then they started realizing that the Legislative Council is not helping at all in this process. Okay, whenever let's say, whenever they wanted roads to be built, the government would reject that we don't have money. The accountant, is rejecting this proposal. They can't allocate budget for this. So always these proposals are getting rejected in the Legislative Council because the governor's excuse is like, we don't have money. Yeah, something like that. So we cannot go ahead with the project. So the European businessmen were so upset with that because no development was happening in the country, in the roads construction or infrastructure development. Okay. Then the Europeans businessmen started struggle. Okay, started protesting the British government. They established a Congress called Lanka Congress. Lanka Congress. This is a collection of British businessmen, and this happened in 1865. And the person who established this is George Wall. He's a British businessman. Okay, George Wall is a British planter, right? He's a commercial cultivation. He is a estate owner. Okay, so this happened in 1865. No need to remember the year, just for you to understand only. So he established Lanka Congress, and many European businessmen gathered in this, and they started pressuring. Now the pressure was coming from the European businessmen to the British government. Look, you got to do something to this Legislative Council. This Legislative Council is not helping. Okay, change the structure of the Legislative Council. So good things can happen to the country, like, developing the economy, developing infrastructure, building roads. These kind of proposals are not going through with the current composition of the Legislative Council. So Lanka Congress, George Wall and everybody were pressuring the British government, bring some changes to this, Legislative Council, because nothing that we want is happening with the Legislative Council. The country is at a standstill. Country is not getting developed. So the British government brought a small change to this after those struggles, that is increasing this 6 to 8. They made it 8, okay, because of the struggles by Europeans. So they introduced one position for Muslims, Muslim 1, then one upcountry Sinhalese, okay, US, I'll write like that, upcountry Sinhalese 1. So again dividing, okay, dividing people based on religion, ethnicity, yeah. This is what the British did. They wanted to divide and rule. You see here in this case, they divided the Sinhala people also. See, one Sinhala, one upcountry Sinhalese. So upcountry, low country. You divide the Sinhalese people like that also. This is what was happening in the ancient time. I mean, ancient times also there were divisions like this. You know, division is a common thing in human. It's common, okay, in human nature, right? But what the British did, they exploited this, okay, they took advantage of this situation, right? So they could have appointed one Sinhalese, but upcountry Sinhalese, okay, upcountry, you divide like that also. So anyway, this 6 was introduced into 8, increased to 8, but still 8 is less than 9. So really the, Sri Lankans or the European businessmen also not getting the real benefit of the development that had to happen to the country. Everybody got it now? Yeah? Yes? Everybody okay? So after the struggle of Europeans, the number was increased to 8, but it was not helping still. Yeah? Okay. So talking about divisions, okay, right. So that's enough for one day. Talking about divisions, it's very common that not only Sri Lankans, but it's common nature that people have divisions, okay, based on their beliefs and based on what they believe, okay. Let's say now you divide based on religions, right? Like Buddhist, Hindu, Islam, Catholicism or Christianity, like this, right? And let's say you don't divide yourself by religions, you will divide based on another criteria. For example, in your school also there are divisions. We are in grade 11. Api ekola hai. Aragolo dahai. Division, right? Yeah. Api, we are lyceumers. They are Selinko, Sussex, whatever. Yeah. You divide based on schools also. Then in the road, in your hometown, in a village also you divide, right? Egolo ambagahayat. Api kosgahayat, right? Like that. Egolo egod. Other side of the river, right? Api megod. Yeah. Egolo that lane, this lane, So it's very common, okay? The division of people, yeah, it's not something that is very bad or something like that, but end of the day, what the British did, it's very common in people, right? Like division, yeah, girls and boys, you divide yourself, girls and boys. Those who are prefects in the school, we are rugby players, we are cadets, we are in the band, we are in the cricket team. You have like these divisions, right, going on based on what you do, what your activities are, and what opinions you hold, and it's very normal, okay? Like human nature is divisions, dividing yourself. You like to stay with like-minded people. You always want to stay with people who think exactly like you. It is a human nature, okay? But the thing is, like the real challenge is to work together, right? To work together to a common goal. You have different beliefs, you have different opinions, you have different cultures, but the common goal, the bigger goal, you all have to get together and work towards a common goal. That is the most challenging thing, okay? As a country also, it's very challenging for us. Even today, it has been very challenging for us since independence to build this, Sri Lankan nation, one nation, who's thinking like, everybody thinking same, like one, like Sri Lankans, it's a little challenging. Yeah, it's normal. Yeah. So what the British did, starting from Colbrook reforms, starting from the Legislative Council themselves, they wanted division, right? They wanted to divide. So you can see those divisions continuously. Yeah, like happening since 1833. This is something that is very difficult for us to manage also today. Yeah. But in the ancient times, you can see under the kings, that is why I like, if I can go back in time, I would be born in a kingdom. I would rather be born in a kingdom where you live under a king, true, okay, you might not have the freedom that you want, but at least, your country is united, right? You know what I mean? There are no so many divisions like we have today in the kingdom times. Everybody were together.